Good afternoon. So we are starting with our international webinar on management principles, Indian, US and Japanese recipes, a wrap-up. It's being organized by the Postgraduate Department of Commerce, Government College, Kattappana. And this is our first webinar, and that too being the international webinar. So I'm here to welcome you all, respected principal, distinguished guests, dear colleagues, dear participants from various colleges of various states, and dear students. I'm so pleased to see so many professors, research scholars, and students from various places all in one place in this meeting. It's a true pleasure for me to welcome you all to the first international webinar on management principles, Indian. Support in organizing any such events which leads to the college to its mainstream, and who, in spite of having a busy schedule, has joined with us to inaugurate this webinar. I welcome you, sir. Next, I welcome our distinguished resource person, Sri Rajesh Girija Rameshan. He's the head of the International Division and National Marketing and Sales Administration of Tumor Blood and Cell Technologies. A very versatile and potential resource person, of course, we have. And the first time I talked to him, he was ready to take up this webinar, and he is here with us. So I welcome you, sir, on behalf of all the participants. In detail, I shall introduce you to him later on. Next, I welcome our Vice Principal, IQAC Coordinator, Srikanth sir, NAC Coordinator, 2G Dominic, and other faculty members of the college, Sri Krishna Prasad sir, who's handling the YouTube streaming, and all other colleagues. I welcome Coordinator Sri Vince Thomas. Next, I welcome all the participants to this webinar. Your strong support and active participation have made this webinar a record-breaking event, because we have more than 170 registrations for this webinar from various parts, and I'm very pleased and happy to see that. Last but not the least, I welcome our students who have also taken interest to participate in this webinar. Welcome you all and enjoy your participation. Now I invite our principal, Dr. Kannan V, to inaugurate the webinar. Kannan sir, please.
Good afternoon, all of you. I am quite happy to be part of this seminar organized by Department of Commerce, Government College, Kattappana. A few words about the Department of Commerce in our college. This is one of the biggest departments having maximum number of students in our college, so that the velocity of the college is being driven by this department, especially the Commerce department. It is a PG department. It is the maximum students. I think for UG they have 60 strength. That is a maximum strength in our college, so that the momentum of the college is being decided by the Department of Commerce, so that any event which is organized by the department will be a grand one as compared to other departments. So I am very happy to be the part of this seminar. And before starting the seminar itself, we can see that there are the number of participants is very high as compared to other departments. That means that there are a number of students who are interested in academic activities. As a part of this online classes, and I instructed all the departments to conduct webinar, and I think every department already conducted webinars, so that the Commerce department is conducting international. All other departments conducted national webinar series. Now the Department of Commerce conducted international seminar. That is the difference, which makes commerce different from other departments. And we are quite lucky to have such an eminent personality, Rajesh Girija Ramesh sir, for presenting this seminar. And I'm sure that this will be useful and this will be a distinguished seminar as webinar as compared to other departments. And I wish all the success for the seminar. I especially congratulate the coordinator, Mr. Vince Thomas, and the head of the department, Ms. Elima PJ, and other faculty members and my dear students. I wish all the success, and with your permission, I inaugurate this seminar, webinar. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir, for your encouraging words and for the inaugural talk. Now I am here to introduce Sri Rajesh Girija Ramesh, our resource person. He is a professional with 23 years of experience in sales and marketing in the health sector, medical disposables and medical devices. He is the head of the International Division in National Marketing and Sales Administration of Terumo Blood and Cell Technologies. It's India's pioneer and market leader in blood transfusion. The transfusion division of the Japanese MNC, Terumo Corporation, which is a global leader in transfusion, cardiology, and general medicine. He takes up the role of consultant as well in the field of healthcare, working with startup firms, and is an entrepreneur in the health sector in the field of medical devices. At present, he is a student pursuing his PhD in marketing, doing studies on evolving industry scenarios in blood transfusion industry in India and resulting customer perceptions. Here I have almost a 5-page biodata. He has a lot of experience and a lot of things he has done. He is a member of many organizations. So he is a member of the Trivandrum Management Association, member of the Confederation of Indian Industry. He's a visiting faculty and training resource Institute of Management in Kerala, then MS Institute of Management, then member of the Kerala Blood Donor Society. He has been organizing various Japanese management principles, workshops on Japanese management principles. He's a law graduate also. He has done his MBA in human resource marketing. So many things are there to see. So you can see he is a volatile and versatile person to be with us today, actually. So we have very less time, and therefore I take this opportunity to conclude my words and welcome you, sir, for the presentation and the talk.
Thank you. So, can we begin the session?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, perfect. So I trust everyone can see my slide and also can hear me very clearly, because that would be of utmost importance, especially specific. So everybody can see, I guess, and hear me clearly. So I would take the silence as a yes. So thank you, Elima ma'am, for that introduction. So I've been lucky to work with a Japanese multinational, and also thankful to my parents and teachers of different institutes that I've studied, who have helped me to gain the kind of experience that I can write about, or at least what I have gained. They say experience is a very good teacher, but an expensive one. But albeit we all learn from experiences. So first of all, I'd like to thank Government College Kattappana and the department for inviting me over to do this talk, specifically to the principal, the head of the department, the coordinator, and to all the senior members of the faculty and the rest of the faculty. And I'm also thankful to the students who have joined and those who have also logged in from outside the institute. This is I wouldn't say this is the ideal time to do a session, 2:30 in the afternoon after lunch on a Monday. But I guess I understood from Ilima ma'am that this is the normal time that sessions are done over at the college, and I think what is good works for everyone. So that is my introduction in that sense. So this session is going to be on management principles, as was explained. What I would try to do is not to make it theoretical. I would speak from my experiences, which I have gained more from having worked with the Japanese over the last 22 years, and then, sorry, 20 years, and then later also with an US management whom the Japanese took over. So, and before the Japanese took over our company, this was a family-run Indian business. So, it was easy for me to talk about this topic and share my experiences from a practical point of view rather than a theory. Theory, I'm sure your esteemed professors and faculty are much more qualified to teach you than me. So, I would leave that to them, and so I would dwell on my experiences in this talk. So I have been allotted a time of 120 minutes. That's kind of like 2 hours, a large amount of time. So, and it's quite difficult to hold the audience over an online platform for this much amount of time. So I'd like to make it crisp and short. So what I would do, I have, going with the Japanese tradition, included more pictures and all the visual interpretations and media into my presentation. So it's easy for you to follow and not boring, I presume. And then what I would also do is stop the talk at around 1 hour and 30 minutes or a little before that, and then open the floor out for any questions that you might have. So if you want to stop me in between, please feel free to do so. This would be my normal speed of talking. If you want me to increase the speed of talking, I can do that, or I can actually also step down a gear further down. So today, these are the things which I thought I would talk about. I will, before we talk about management principles, we need to talk about the evolution of management. Then I would talk in a bit detail about Japanese management principles over a few slides. And I want to take you through the concept of 5S, which is the pillar stone of total quality management, of which the Japanese are renowned for. And having done that, once we get through that, which is quite interesting, so to say, this is not only applicable for an institution or an organization. TQM can even be applied in our day-to-day life. And I have benefited personally a lot from that. And then I would also do a comparison of different styles of management over a few slides and take you through that with a couple of examples so that it's easy for you to understand, I guess. And as always, I would want you to look at what is in this for you, all of us. So anything you do, the common question is asked is, okay, fine, so what do I get? So we will look at that. What do you gain out of this? Specifically, I will be conversing in English as I have been asked to do so because it is an international seminar. I can converse in English and Malayalam. So if you want to have questions later in Malayalam, please feel free to say so. And I will be sharing my email address with Eliama ma'am. So if you want to do call me up or write a mail to me, please feel free to do that. And last but not the least, as I told you, I will open up the floor for questions. So what are the possible takeaways for the audience from this? As I feel, I aim to give you an idea of the Japanese management systems, especially the 5S principles and the importance in our lives. And now these seem to be a very big concept, global concept, management styles and all this stuff. But what can you as students do now at this juncture to familiarize yourself to be a global citizen? Now the key word is being a global citizen. Corona is, or the pandemic has brought us all closer. It's talked about a lot negatively and across all the negative news that is spread across. I'm not saying that it's not affected the lives, But what it has given us is also an ability to look at life positively and be thankful to all the good things that we enjoy and even the small things that we enjoy. And I guess that has also given us a lot of time to come together as a family, as a group, be it an organization or a small family. And I think that should be the biggest positive. And hence, being a global citizen is quite vital for all of you. You can also get a snapshot of different management styles. So when you go on and further work for organizations, which I'm sure each one of you will, it is easy for you to imbibe, and so possibly you can look back and take away one or two slides or one or two points from this presentations. And to my best of abilities, I will try to clarify any doubts that you have. So in case I'm not able to answer some questions, I can definitely go back, check, and come back and answer you those over any email. So I don't claim to know everything. What I do is I can share with you, as I told you, my experiences. So let's start. So as I told you, we have to start with when you talk about management style, about organizing. Many of you would know this. How did large organizations in during the Second World War? So before that, the industries were diverse. It was spread around small units, spread across villages and small scale units. And the Industrial Revolution actually leapfrogged this process of people who know Adam Smith and his famous example of pin making can relate to that. So this was done basically to consolidate everything into a single area. So this was done basically to consolidate everything into a single area so that the productivity and efficiency can be improved. As a result of which, the quality and the scale units organizations. So this resulted in giant organizations emerging. So we had universities coming. So the earlier system was having, you must have heard about the Gurukul system here in India, and you had different types of schooling and universities abroad. And all these started consolidating into large corporations, universities, big hospitals, large schools, etc. So when you say an organization, all these are organizations, albeit with different structures. So what happened next was even more interesting. So running a small scale enterprise was very easy. So you could control everything in a very specific small area and you knew exactly what was happening. When all the activities were consolidated and when you had to look at different aspects of an industry or an organization, like looking at money, looking at quality, looking at the production process, looking at sales, looking at marketing, you needed technology, so to say, in the new term, which had enabled the operation of these organizations, which are very big. So what happened was they needed a new subject to teach people all this. So now that period also saw, along with the emergence of big organizations, it resulted in the emergence of management as a discipline. So that's why we had places where management was taught. So you don't need to teach management to people. We have inherently born attributes of management within ourselves. So you can see that if you walk into a local marketplace, it is very evident that all the vendors there have the ability to manage their own things. But then what specifically sets apart a manager who is taught the styles of management specifically from management institutes or big universities is the fact that it is taught as a discipline. So they are led through a process wherein which the output or the outcome that is resulting is a person who knows the nuances of how to conduct specific tasks. Now, we talked about big organizations forming up. We talked about emergence of management as a discipline. So it was not only enough that you had management as a separate discipline. You needed a person who could run an organization. So in those days, he was called as the organization man. So what also happened was we saw during that period, during the Industrial Revolution period, the government started taking over a lot of activities and influencing many different spheres of life. And it also required that people were required to run these different resources and processes. So at that point of time, it saw the evolution of a person called an organization man, today's manager. So, and then a goal was set to the higher institutions, and the goal given to them was please turn out such organization men who are required to run these large scale organizations and handle operations in the most effective manner. So in those three slides, you would have, I believe, understood what led to the emergence of large scale organizations, how did management as a discipline evolve, and then how was the term a manager coined. Now, having said that, this is all that is to management. You don't have to read through all these things. You just have to focus on these five key areas which have been highlighted. So, what essentially management is all about is planning, organizing. I'm sorry, there was a spelling mistake in that. I missed the O there. Motivating, leading, and controlling. So it's nothing but these five things. So the total management process can be summarized as these five things. Of course, in each of these, you will have different aspects. Like in planning, you need to set your objectives, strategize, forecast, have policies, have a budget, and then specific plans of action to carry out those strategies. So likewise, when you do an organizing, you need to have a direction of labor, you need to have authorities fixed, delegation of those authority, departmentation, and then you also need to fix timelines or span of management for all these. So that's why I said I can possibly share these slides later. But what you have to understand is that to summarize management as a task, these are the five things specifically related to management. So planning, organizing, motivating, leading, and controlling. That's all there to management. So you have the organization, management as a principle, the organization man, and then summarizing what are the tasks that a manager is supposed to do. Now, let's come to the aspect that I was talking about leading up to this. Japanese management principles. So Japan is a very mystic place. You all people know the history of Japan. It's a country with a big history. It shares a lot of history with the small state of Kerala as well. If you are interested in a bit of history, and for example, you all know the dance form of Kathakali, which is quite popular in our state, and which is a dance drama actually. And they have a very similar form of dance called Kabuki. It also sounds similar. So Kabuki and Kathakali are very similar. So, and if you look at some of the old structures of buildings in Japan, you have those monasteries and the old houses. You see the roofing of it, it's kind of like a V bend inside. And if you look at some of the old homes which are now, and the designs are coming back here suited for our climate, it is almost similar here in Kerala. So Japan is a country of rich traditions. It's got its own ties with history in terms, most specifically talked about are the two atom bombs which were dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and which actually wiped out an economy and a civilization. But albeit that they have a very great history as a nation, and they are very resourceful people. They are very people who respect each other and also other cultures, and they are always willing to learn. So all these characteristics go into their management principles as well. So I didn't know any of these when I started out with them. As I told you, I came in working with a family-run business here in India. And then fine morning, around 20 to 25 Japanese people landed up here, so courteous that they bend at every word they speak, and then kind of like make you feel like a super boss. But I can tell you they are very courteous, but they are very purposeful and resourceful, and then they bend their way into teaching you and putting you exactly at a place where you deserve. So that is the basis of all the management principles also. So what I've tried to do here is put this into a pyramid, and which has four parts to it so that it's easy for you to understand. So I have put it as philosophy, the process, people and partners, and problem solving. So these are the basic cornerstones or the basic blocks that make up the Japanese management principles. And as I told you, if you look at the sides of this diagram and follow my mouse, they also adhere to this or follow this management principle using the aspects of respect for each other, and they believe in a lot of teamwork, and which they explain in two words called Genji and Gembetsu. And they also challenge people a lot. That is, they give you specific task and ask you whether you can do it, and if you can do it, they reward you for that a lot. And that keeps you on your toes and keeps you motivated. And they also do what is known as Kaizen, which we will go into in the later slides, which is actually an aspect of continuous improvement. So they don't fear if something is not fully right the first time. They say there is always room for improvement. So there is continuous improvement that is happening in all their activities. So let's take the very base of it, the philosophy part. Japanese believe in long-term thinking. So for them, they don't look at short-term results. So I will give you specific examples as we go into the slides later. So even if you look at their business plans, their minimum business plans are 5 years. And they go into it in extreme detail. They spend a lot of time doing that planning. And while they may put it into a very small sheet of paper, which is in the A4 size, and call it some name, and put the 5-year plan into that, believe me, they go into excruciating detail planning for long term. So why do they do a long term planning? Is basically because they believe that if you have strong management decisions on a long term basis, that helps people adapt and evolve to those decisions and then work towards those goals in a phased manner. Now, even it might at some point of time mean that in the short term, so in the first 2 years of a 5-year plan, the results might not be where you are expecting it to go, but they don't fear about a short-term financial loss. They always look at what their objective is in the long term. So that enables the organization and the people to think ahead and place themselves and prepare themselves for that goal. So the next pyramid is process. So I will go into it in a bit of detail when we talk about 5S. They talk about the process. So in the process, they say take out waste. So how to take out waste, I will go into detail when we talk about 5S. And they talk about the right process which produces the right result. So you must have heard the English saying which says right process, right process brings you results, or practice makes you perfect. So here what they talk about is something a little different. They say right practice makes you different. So I don't know how many of you are accustomed to cricket. So if you have seen the great god of cricket here in India, Sachin Tendulkar, who just hung up his boots a few years ago, if he plays a cover drive, the beauty with which he plays it is quite different from the way a Dhoni, who is an equally fierce competitor, an established person here, an accomplished person here, would do. So you would give anything to go in and watch Sachin Tendulkar play one cover drive rather than watch Dhoni play one shot. Likewise, if you watch Dr. Padma Subramaniam, who is an exponent of Bharatanatyam, at this age, she is kind of like 75 or above, I believe. The perfection which she brings out all the mudras is quite unmatched to someone who practices this amateurishly. So what the Japanese say is, you can produce results through any process, but if you put in the right process, the result will be right. So it is like if you study regularly at regular intervals, you will get a good result. If you also study irregularly at irregular intervals, you will still get a result, but that result will be accustomed to that irregular study pattern. So that's the process which they say. So right process brings in the right results, or right practice brings in the right results. So we will go into each of these a bit later. They also believe in building a culture of stopping to fix problems to get quality right the first time. So what that makes is, so suppose there is a production line in a factory. They are starting to manufacture something. So during the process, they find that they have a target to achieve. Yet at one point of time, one of their processes is rigged. They have a problem. So let's say, for example, you must have all heard about Tiger biscuits. So imagine it's a Japanese product and they are making it. So what happens is, if they find a small crack in the die, and at the initial stage when the duff is going into the die, there is a small crack appearing before it goes into the oven. They will stop production there to fix it and then move forward. So that is a quality which the Japanese have, and which has emboldened them to bring out world-class products like Sony, Toyota, and all this stuff. So they try to make quality right the first time. If they cannot, they just do it to the best of the ability and then take it over to what I explained earlier as Kaizen. And the other quality that they have is they practice a lot of processes. And once they find a right process, they standardize that process, and they put it into a document so that it is passed on to employees for continuous improvement through the stages, and employee empowerment. So what that means is, once you have a task that is established, it is laid down so that any person who is joining new need not go through the whole process, or he just needs to read up that process and get straight into the implementation part. And Japanese are the best people in terms of visual control systems. So I have, as I told you, I have few slides which are self-explanatory. I will show you how beautiful their visual control systems are. So when we write 10s and 15 pages of documents, they can put everything into a single sheet of paper with clear markings and pictures, and nothing is hidden. It's so open and everything is quite understandable. So even if you are a layman who is not from the stream of management or this stream of subject knowledge, it's quite easy for you to understand. And the one big factor which the Japanese also look at is, they never go in for stopgap technology. They only look at reliable, thoroughly tested technology that serves the people and the processes. So if you take an example, I don't know how many of you remember the predecessor of this very established product that runs on our roads here in India, and especially here in Kerala, which is the Innova. The latest version, I understand, is the one called Innova Krista. So the initial version was called the Qualis. So I recently read a newspaper article where the MLA from Kattappana, Mr. Ganesh Kumar, is not willing to part with his Qualis, which he bought close to 22 years ago. Now that's the kind of brand value that a customer associates with a product. That's basically because they invest a lot in technology before they bring in a product. So this Qualis, before it was brought into the Indian market, this was a product which is already available in Europe and US markets and already in Japan. But before they brought it to India, I understand that they tested it out on Indian conditions for close to 6 to 7 years before they had that perfect combination. And then they put up their plants, which had the right technology from all this testing to bring out a world-class product. That's the reason why customers don't want to part with such a product even after having it with them for quite some time, and even after having 2 generations of separate higher efficiency products available. So that goes a long way to say the kind of investments the Japanese make into the technology. Then one of the cornerstones of Japanese planning is also the fact that It's not enough to have processes, practice those processes, have the best technology, have the best machines, standardize the product. What they value most is people. So I was very skeptical when a Japanese company, and that too a multinational, came over and took a very small family-run Indian business firm, which I was part of. And as always, I was thinking that, okay, fine, they are here. Now it's going to be kind of like a fire old and then bring in new. So, but to my surprise, what they did to me was they studied me kind of without even me knowing that they were doing that for close to a year. And then they started giving me opportunities to learn. So they put me in different facets of the organizations like operations, logistics, handling the law. Then I was even asked to work in the factory, going into shifts, materials management. I didn't know any of this, but what they tried to do for me was put me in challenging situations and see how I would respond. So there are two ways to respond to a challenge. Either you say, sorry, I cannot take a challenge and I can run off, or you can actually start enjoying that challenge and try and see what best you can do to adapt to that challenge. So once you adapt to that challenge, the Japanese are very willing teachers. They will actually mold you to take up that challenge. So what that happens is, any person getting into their organization is put through what is described as job rotation. So you might be a finance guy, you might be a commerce graduate, you might be an MBA, you might be whatnot, or you might even be a scientist. They would actually put you through different facets of the organization, and if they find that you actually enjoy it, they actually mold you, enable you to learn. Even if you make mistakes, it is okay, so that once you come out of this job rotation, you are actually the organization man, which I talked about initially. So for example, I was able to get a bird's eye view of the entire business, having gone through all these processes. True, there were very difficult times, stiff targets. I never liked going in wearing a space suit, working in a clean room where all that you are allowed to keep outside is your eyelids, and work there for 8 hours. But still, what enabled me to do that is to understand the manufacturing process and how a product is made. So once you understand that, and then you go into the market, you appreciate the qualities of the product, and then you talk. Likewise, when I first joined the international business division, do you know the first job that I was asked to do was go to the factory and go with the truck which was carrying the goods to the Cochin port. And I could not travel in a train. I had to get into the same truck that the load was being taken, and I had to sit along with the driver and then go there. So the person I am, or the natural process that a youngster goes through, which I was in those days, was the fact that it was such a big ego for me. Here I was completely joining the organization after doing an MBA and LLB and whatnot. And then suddenly you are asked to sit inside a lorry, travel for 6 hours in the heat and humidity, get to Cochin port and then unload things, get the documents back after submitting those to the customs and come back. But this ego lasted only for 2 trips. I made numerous trips, but what that enabled me to learn, which something which no other textbook on international business could teach me. I was able to learn the nuances of taxation, sales tax, customs procedures, meeting up with people, how is the product handled from after leaving the warehouse at the factory and this thing. So this is how Japanese put people through different phases, and then that makes you grow as leaders who understand the work thoroughly. And what that has enabled me is also, it has helped me when I have molded subordinates who have come under me, colleagues who have learned from me. It was very easy for me to tell them that this is how it is done. So all I had to do was get them to practice what they have to do. So learn on the job and practically do these things. So it might be very mundane task, but you do it, you learn it, and you are appreciated. So it helps you develop as leaders who can make decisions very fast and whose conscience is very clear. So once your conscience is very clear, you can take very effective decisions. And if you, and those decisions will have the conscience of having clear values. So for example, there is a shipment which is supposed to go today from Cochin port to UK, which is worth 1 crore. And if I come to know that there is a problem with one product in that 100,000 numbers which are being shipped out, I can actually take a decision to stop that shipment. So what that means is you are stopping the revenue for 30 days for the company for 1 crore. So if you look at the personal loan percentages or interest that are charged by the banks today, it would be around 13%. So imagine 13% ticking away for the company as inventory sitting in a warehouse until this quality is stopped. But I am allowed to make that decision. I am not penalized because I took that decision. That's the kind of empowerment I am given because I know the job, because they have taught me very rigorously that this is the way to understand that process. And if you find a fault, stop it the first time and correct it. And the last one here, the principle 11, which I have put here, is critical. And this would also translate to even when you are students. So, which means that you are not working alone. So you might be in an organization, you might be part of a global MNC, you might be part of Terumo or some other organization, you might be part of Reliance, you might be part of Dell. But you cannot do your work unless you get the support of an extended partner or network of partners. There are a lot of suppliers who supply you goods, and there are a lot of people who do simple assembling jobs for you. So the Japanese principles or management principle consider all of them as your own people. So we are taught to respect those network of partners, and they keep challenging them as well. For example, if we are supposed to take an ISO certification, this certification is also extended to them. They are asked to put in systems which enable them to practice ISO or CE marking standards. And what actually this does to them is you are actually improving your partners. So once your partners improve, you actually improve. So once your partners improve and their input materials are very high quality, you can get your quality the first time correct. So this is very critical in Japanese management. So quickly and coming back, very last points on this. They continuously look at solving root problems. So if they look at some problem, they try to find out the root cause. So it's not like, okay, you went and crashed the car, you are driving a car, you hit somebody or you hit another vehicle. So they don't make an inference straight away that you slept, you just crashed because you were careless. They ask questions, and what they encourage us to do is to do something like a looking back as to what events led to that. So they say, I will tell you picturesquely in the later slides, that accidents don't happen by chance. So Japanese say that any accident that happens, there is a precedent or a series of events which are showing you in the background that please be careful, something bad is going to happen. So we are encouraged to go and see for ourselves what exactly is happening. So in Japanese, they call it Genji Genbutsu. So for example, I am the national marketing head, for example. I may be the national marketing head, but what I am encouraged to do is not sit at behind my desk and make decisions. So if, for example, the sales in eastern region of India is dipping below the normal, I can very well sit here and say, based on my experience, that this could be the reason. But that's not the way the Japanese teaches. They tell you, if you have a problem, go and see for yourself what exactly is the problem. Don't make inferences. You might be the most wisest guy in town. You might be the most learned man in town. You must have the highest degrees from the biggest universities. But don't take a decision until you see for yourself what has happened. So if it is a manager in a shop floor manager who is supervising over around 100 employees, he is not allowed to sit in the cabin. He is actually allowed to come and stand near the machines, watch day in and day out what exactly is happening. So when a worker comes back and reports a problem, you know exactly what is the solution that needs to be given to him. And even if you know the reason for the problem, you are encouraged to give a solution by consensus. So people are not taken back by decisions that are made unilaterally, which we see as a problem even in our day-to-day life. So imagine having a family and one person taking all the decisions for you. How would that family look? While it might be comfortable for a lot of the family members, at some point of time, it could also be an annoyance. So what the Japanese say is, consider all options, talk to each other, get different views, and then since once your conscience is clear and the values are clear, take the decisions and then implement the decisions without any delay. So what that means is you are always learning as an organization by continuously reflecting upon what you're doing, and you're also improving day by day. So in Japanese, they have a saying which goes in English something like this. So sometimes when we are talking, we say to each other, I presume, oh, you are the best. Nowadays we have the WhatsApp, so you can just emoji with a thumbs up or some other symbol. I don't know, God knows what. I should ask my daughter for that. And it means that you are the best, or you are super, or you're I don't know what. But Japanese say there is no never a word called best, because they believe best means full stop. There is nothing more to do. So in place of best, they value more the concept of being better. So they think that when you say you are better than what you were yesterday, which means there is still room for improvement for each of you, and there is a chance for us to improve. So continuous improvement is leads us to betterment of processes and betterment of outcomes. When the processes are better, the outcomes are also better. Now, before we go into 5S, I just want you to look at the screen and see how many of you go through this every day in different facets of life. You might be a student today. This is a reference to an organization. It can be, you can be a faculty, you can be a research scholar, you can be anybody, but you go through different decision-making circumstances like this. Like, I don't remember what to do. Why am I making mistakes again and again? Why cannot we communicate properly? I am not getting enough time to complete any of this work. I cannot find a document. Oh, I've been in this position for quite some time. It's making me tired. I don't know what to do. I'm demotivated. So these are circumstances I can assure you at some point of your professional life or personal life you would go through. So these are very common circumstances. What that leads to is hesitation in doing things that we need to do on time. When you don't find things which are needed to take decision, you spend more time, waste more time looking for necessary items. You don't remember what to do, how to do, and all this makes us indecisive as individuals. And what that leads to, as expected, is we make a mistake, which is the easiest thing to do. So it is flowing from all this, and then it leads to this. So you can either be a positive thinker or negative thinker. This I borrowed from the Google, so this is not my diagram. So this is a concept of a glass half full or half empty. You can, if you are a positive thinker, you say, oh, this glass is half full, which is the one on the right. So, but if you are a negative thinker, you say, oh, this glass is only half full. There is still a long way to fill this glass. So you can either be a positive thinker or a negative thinker. So either of these, if you are facing problems, there are only two solutions. You can either think inside the box and wait for intervention from outside to help you, like this person here on the left of your screens, or as the Japanese believe, work together to solve the problem and work with the team to improve the situation so that you get a solution. But even if you have all the positive energy in the world, and you are willing to work as a team, you will still need realistic tools to make those ideas realistic. For the Japanese, they believe in what is known as TQM, or total quality management. So that is the cornerstone, or the word around which they have bounced back to be global business leaders. Albeit they have a high percentage of inflation, which makes their currency very this thing. They have the best manufacturing techniques, they have the best processes. And to imagine a country which was almost wiped out after 1945 to come back to this state goes a long way to say about the robustness of this approach, called TQM, which was made famous by an entity or a company called Toyota, which is very quite famous these days in our country as well. For the TQM, they use a tool which is two-prong, which is 5S, which is essentially getting yourself organized, and then Kaizen, which I explained as in the earlier slides, which is actually continuously improving upon what you're doing. So this is actually a step-by-step process to how you get to that total quality management. So you start with improving your current working environment. So don't imagine that this applies only to a person working in some place, or your faculty for whom the factory or the organization is the university or the office itself. It works for every individual, it works for every student, it works for every you name it. And then once you organize your working environment, you have standardized the process, as I explained to you how the Japanese do, and you have identified the best way to organize your life. Then you continuously start improving upon already established processes, and then you reach that stage where you utilize maximum capacity and get the best output for the organization, which then leads to what is referred to as an HRO, or a highly reliable organization. So if you look at it as a tree, what I explained right now is just here. The basis, or the cornerstone, or the roots of the tree is actually having to do the 5S, is to first organize your work environment. So once you do that, that's the best part. So if you have your foundation, if you have the roots firmly embedded into the soil, then the tree stands upright in any cyclone. So, and then once you have the processes established as the roots here, you can actually take a lot of improvement through the way, and then you have this tree flowering into a very leafy, fruity tree, which is actually the total quality management process in full bloom, and which leads to a highly reliable organization, or an HRO, which can stay for longer time and established. It's like a tree which stands the time and then lives up to 100 or 200 years. Now, while you take the journey, the critical part, as I told you, is the 5S part, which requires a lot of positive attitude, because getting yourself organized, getting an individual organized, is the biggest problem. So we are all very, according to ourselves, we are the best people. We don't have mistakes, which is a common trend. There is nothing wrong with that kind of a thinking process. So the biggest problem then is to identify, looking into ourselves, what are the mistakes that we are doing, and then to correct those and then standardize. Now that, when it happens in an organization which has around 1,000 people or 1,200 people, and when you are trying to organize the work for all those people and build the base for a stronger organization, it requires a lot of positive attitude and strong leadership. The leader has to be one, a person who is already organized a bit. Second is a person who positively believes that I can turn around these 1,000 people and their habits, and I can put in place standardized processes. And then once you do that and reach the next stage of Kaizen, then you need leadership and commitment of the management to take that forward. Only then, this is actually a long-term process. Like you plant a sapling, and then its roots slowly grow. The roots are the one which actually help it stay strong and grow thicker and thicker and thicker, with lots of leaves and branches. So this is again a beautiful visual control system put across by the Japanese. So you can actually explain a big concept in one single slide using a tree diagram. So that's it. So what exactly is 5S? I don't want to read through this document. You can read through very easily. It's basically for improving your working environment. So it's a philosophy and a way of organizing and managing the workspace and workflow when it comes to an organization. Hello? Can everyone hear me? I thought there was a disturbance.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We can hear.
Okay, thank you. 5S is a philosophy, so hence and a way of organizing and managing the workspace and flow. So workflow in an organization is very critical to ensure that production times and production lines are met, and Japanese are very good at doing that. So that is how you organize your. So it's essentially an improvement of your working environment. So when you see the next few slides, you will understand that the best example of 5S in action is your mother's kitchen in your home. So it is the easiest example. For example, even if you are going into the kitchen for the first time, imagine your mother is not there, nobody to help you. You want to prepare a cup of tea. The recipe is available these days, especially in pandemic times on the YouTube. You can make anything. Everybody these days is growing into a cook. Even I tried my hand at cooking a lot of these things. So, but still you need to find the ingredients in the kitchen. So imagine any kitchen in any of your homes. It is the most organized place. You know, your mother knows exactly where a pot of tea leaves is kept or a tea dust is available. Where is the sugar? Where is the milk? How much is there? How much is not there? It's all very specific. And if you give a call to your mother, she can tell you very specifically where is, if you put your hand up by 1 meter, you can actually reach the tea leaves, and you can, the spoon is right beside it, you can take it and put it. So that's the best example of a 5S in action inside our home. That's why I specifically told you that 5S is not for an organization alone, it is for each one of us. If you practice concept like 5S and Ikigai, which is another level, you actually can live up to, you can live a very high quality of life. So an HRO, which is a highly reliable organization, can become an HRI, a highly reliable individual, which is very rare and uncommon to find these days. So 5S activities create good working environment through 3 words of Japanese. It's called Muri, M-U-R-I in English, Mura and Muda. So what is Muri? Anything that causes overburden, unreasonableness or absurdity. So things are not clear. And if you want to do something, this if things are overburdened and you are really stressed out. Mura is unevenness or inconsistency, primarily with physical matter and the human spiritual condition. So, if you you might have phases in your day-to-day life where you are highly efficient, then you slow down, you are listening to music, you want to go out with your friends or hang around. So, if you apply that to an organization, this is very dangerous. So, if you are making a Toyota car and you have inconsistency or unevenness in the production process, then Toyota can very easily become, you can take out the rest of the OTA and it becomes a toy. So, and that too, albeit a very indisciplined and bad quality. And Muda is any activity which is wasteful or doesn't add value. So, Japanese say, don't take any action which doesn't add value to you. So, if you are making tea and you have to search 10 minutes to take a spoon of sugar, don't do that. Instead, put that sugar cube or whatever it is, or the cup that is holding the sugar, in a very specific place which can get you there in the first. When you transform that into a production line, it is very critical. So, you have to reduce Muri, overburden, Mura, unevenness in your activity, and Muda, which is a wasteful action, to do 5S. So essentially 5S aims at doing all this. Now what is 5S? What do you mean by 5S? Which is essentially 5 S's, the English alphabet, yes. So in Japanese it's called Seiri, Seiton, Seiso, Shikitsu and Shitsuke. And if you translate to English, the 5 processes which are in order of the numbers itself, Seiri means to sort out, Seiton means to set things in order, the things which you have sorted out. Seiso is to make Once you have set it, keep them spick and span by shining it or taking care of it every day. And once you shine it, make it standardized so that that process is set correctly. And then once you standardize the process, ensure that you sustain that standardized process for a longer time so that your output is of the best quality. So standardization is kind of like establishing the right process or the rightest product in a wrong English, but the right way. So this is what is the 5S. So it was finally generalized in 1980s in a manufacturing sector in Japan. It was from the Toyota production system. So everything was coined from there. And it became famous in the automobile sector and the manufacturing sector. The Toyota production system had its basis, and later the TQM had its basis on the 5S. And the service industry, which is quite common in our country as well these days and across the globe, they started using the 5S concepts in the 1990s. So what all can 5S do? This was what Google told me picturesquely. So it says it improves teamwork and participation because you cannot do 5S alone. When you clean up your workspace, it impacts a lot of other people as well. And when you are doing it in a shop floor, or in an organization, or for example in a staff room or in a classroom, what that happens when you clean up your space, you actually impact the person sitting next to you or the person next to them, and then so on and so forth. So everybody is compelled to do these things, and when you do this as a group, it improves teamwork and participation. Second most important thing, it helps you identify abnormalities. So you might be facing the host of problems which I showed you in a slide earlier. Why am I not able to do things on time? Why am I making mistakes? And you are not able to find a solution. So when you do the 5S, it will show very clearly to you yourself what were the abnormalities that you had to go through. And these were possibly the reasons why you were facing all these problems. It helps you identify waste, and then you can reduce those wastes as well. And Japanese consider the 7 ways in their manufacturing sector as overproduction, having larger inventory than needed, waiting time in the production line where, for example, you can imagine a Toyota car being produced. The engine comes in, but you don't have the body ready to put in the engine. So then that line is stopped, which is actually any line stopped and waiting for work is cost escalating. And then unwanted reworking. So if you don't get the quality right, then you have to rework. Any rework is waste. And over processing. So for example, you have a machine which is doing the quality testing. It is processed and ready. Then you place another person, an individual also there to take that already quality tested product and take a look at it for visual inspection. Then that is over processing. So unwanted procedures are being introduced, and which is adding to cost. All these 7 ways were coined by Taichi Ono, the former president of the Toyota Motors, specifically, and these all add to cost. It also helps improve productivity and productiveness, and most of all, it helps improve safety. So even the day-to-day environment, which you might be sitting in the comforts of your room today, but you never know what is cooking for you. If you haven't checked your ceiling fan in the last 10 years and every day only pressing the switch to switch it on, it might let out a groaning sound every time you switch it on. The speed might be reduced, and then it might bring up speed after 10 minutes into the operation. Be careful, one day it might actually come down. But on the other hand, if you do a 5S very, very periodically and you check the bearing, they check the whatever is the mechanical component of it, then you can sit very relaxed under that fan in your own room without having the worry that it's going to fall down. So Japanese don't take things for granted. So that's the cornerstone of philosophy. So once you practice 5S, you are actually improving with all other things. You are also improving safety. So this is the process. So first is sort out the things, next is set, third is shine, 4, once you shine, and then you standardize the procedure, and once you standardize the procedure, please sustain it so that you don't go back to your original position where you have to still sit and sort everything. So what do you mean by sort? It focuses on eliminating unnecessary items on the workplace. You can, if it's a shop floor, you can categorize furniture, tools in your working place into 3 categories. What do I need? Absolutely necessary. So if you have your table in front of you, there are 10 pens lying around, and you know very well only 2 of those pens will write. And yet, when you are asked to write something, you search around all these 10 pens to scratch it on a piece of paper to see which one will write. Now, instead, once if you do all the scratching and then take out the 8 pens which won't write and keep only the 2, which is absolutely necessary, then it will actually work for you very easily. Take out the unnecessary 8 pens and throw it away. And then you might think that there is one pen which is actually not necessary, but it writes a little bit. If you think it's absolutely necessary, keep it. If not, it may not be necessary, but you need to keep it as a backup, still keep it. What this will bring in is it will help in taking out the just in case attitude. So these are the sorting activities. You may things not needed at all, things needed which are utilized in category, and you may need items which are used only occasionally. Examples of sorting in a production environment is tagging. So if you a red tag is given to things like which you don't need at all, unnecessary items, move unnecessary items, free up valuable floor space, which will actually improve your space utilization, find abnormality of equipment and tools which are out of order and missing parts, etc. So these are 2 pictures which will help you with this. So the picture on the left of your screen where my mouse is before sorting, and this is after sorting. The same things lying in a heap is now sorted out. So you might think that this whole thing is one big piece of mess, but then after sorting out, you might find that there are things which are necessary for you from this. You may be necessary, and then you will find a large part of these things are not at all necessary. So once you sort, the next process is setting. Setting is based on finding the effective and efficient storage for your necessary items. You can apply can see, can take out, and can return. So you have to place things in places where you can see it very easily. You can take it out very easily. And once you see and take it out, you have to return it to the same place very easily. Now, what that helps you and helps the Japanese does is save time and energy looking for something. So these are the setting activities. For example, in a manufacturing setup, labeling, numbering, zoning for clear identification of storage areas to keep necessary items, setting necessary items matching with workflow to minimize the unnecessary movement and transportation time are examples. So these are processes of setting. So you can see before 5S on the left of your screen where my mouse is. Look at that cupboard, which had lots of paper, which had bags lying around, machines, some files, and you are in the process of sorting it out. And once you sort, you set it here on the right side and look at the improvement from what you had initially to this place, where you can see very clearly. All these are very clearly labeled. You can see clearly, take it out easily, and return it back very easily. So that's the whole point of this. So once you have set, make sure that you keep it like this. You keep it spick and span. So you have to go back and do it daily. So how many of you can be a faculty, you can be a student, you can and even me. So one of the big improvements that the Japanese taught me is, until they came in, I thought the cleaning activity of my desk was relegated to the poor lady who used to come and sweep our office every day. So the Japanese told me that, sorry, it's not their job. Your workplace is your workplace. So you make sure that it's organized and it's clean daily. So once you set your workplace, then you have to clean it absolutely clearly. So our workmen are taught to take care of their machines. So if there are 450 people in a shift from 8 a.m. till 2 p.m. and 10 people are working on the bag sealing machine, 10 people have the ownership of that machine. They have to clean the machine before they switch it on. They have to clean the machine before, once they switch it off, and hand it over to the next person. So that's the way it works. What that creates is a pride and ownership within ourselves, and we take accountability. How many of you would actually clean your vehicle? So most of you would have bikes, most of you would have cars, you would have bicycles, you name it. But how many you take the trouble to clean it? So I am asking you. It was quite difficult for me to do that as well, but I try and build in a system where I do that a bit periodically. So examples of shining activities are daily sweeping, regular cleaning, check for changes in equipment like leaks, vibration, misalignment, breakage, etc. Now that's what I said. So if you translate this to a running vehicle, this is actually day-to-day life. Hand hygiene, which is very quite talked about these days, waste segregation, and also part of shine. So this is the way you do a shining exercise. This is a hospital picture where things are very set and organized. You have very clear demarcation for the beds, and they are cleaning it on a daily basis. So once you have set and you are shining it daily, you have to standardize this as a process. So tomorrow, you as a worker might be transferred from this department to another, or you will go, if you are working in a lab within your classroom, and then tomorrow you are leaving the lab and going to a next class, and somebody else has to take your place at the lab. Then if you standardize the process you were doing, then they will follow the very same process without wasting time. So that helps the new person to adapt very fast. So that's how the Japanese reduce turnaround times in their production setups. So these are how they standardize, like they put standard operation procedures, or what is known as SOPs. There are SOPs in every place. So your colleges would have SOPs. The government has very good SOPs. Unlike what you believe, I think standard operating procedures that are laid out in detail. So I don't believe, I have worked in the private sector for quite a long time, but I don't believe they are the best organized. I think the government is the best organized. The problem is most often it is diluted, or we don't try to implement those set rules. So for example, if you have the Prime Minister or the President of India visiting a particular place, imagine they are coming to your college in Kattappana. 3 weeks before, there will be an entourage of people who come there from security to other things to see that these things are there, the people are there, the right place to receive these people. They will check all the seats for any misalignments. They will see the route from where the president would travel from the airport to Government College Kattappana. So these are processes which are already written in the government. That's why I say the government is one of the best places where you have good operating procedures. So if we can just implement those, this place would be such a heaven on earth. So you will have to regularly check the development and use the regular SOPs. You need color coding for waste segregation, which is shown here. And you can have, so this is very easy to help identify where to put what waste. It all reduces time. And once you do this part of standardization, it is not enough that you standardize and shine regularly. You have to continuously do it. So you think that you have organized your workplace once, and then you can go back to the earlier method. Sorry, no, you have to sustain it if you want to be a professional manager. So sustainable activities is like improving continuously, preventing a fallback, and always trying to see how best can I improve further. Example of sustaining activities is doing continuous reviews with your superior. In your case, with your students, you can always go back to your faculty and ask them, am I doing things right? They are quite experienced. They will tell you, sorry, you are doing a lot of these things right, but this the SOP says like this. If you could improve like this would make you much better. And you should have visual control systems which will enable you to help improve at all stages. If you put all this into a conceptual framework, the key cornerstone would be to sustain all these activities: sort, standardize, and shine. So once you standardize, sort, set, standardize, shine, and standardize, and then do that sustainably. So that's the way it can be put. So it's becoming popular. We might not call it 5S in our day-to-day life, but it's getting popular because it gives you visible results. The workplace gets organized, hospitals and office operations become easier. The results are visible to everyone. So if you are a student doing a paper for your professor, if you do it in the most organized way and you do that consistently, it is very obvious to your professor that you are working hard. So they don't need to look outside for putting internals. And people become naturally disciplined. People on their own take pride in being clean and organized at the workplace. And as a result, if it is an organization, a company's image, once it becomes better, it generates a better this thing. So 5S is actually a phase to TQM phases, as I explained earlier. Situation analysis, training, standardizing, sustaining, training of staff, and then continuing the 5S cycle. So all this leads you to total quality management. So if you want to put some targets for 5S, zero changeover, zero defects, zero waste, zero delays, zero injuries which are leading to safety, zero breakdowns which bring more productiveness. Examples of some 5S activities. This is the same shelf on the left side which was quite disorganized. Now it is very organized. This is a hospital setup. Look at this cupboard here which was disorganized on the left, and after 5S how it is. And this is how a color coding is done. Green means enough stock in a reorder level. Yellow means stock is getting less, and red means stock out. And these are some examples. To wrap up 5S, positive attitude is very important, as I said. 5S is not a cleaning campaign. It is not a Gandhi Jayanti kind of a ritual that we undertake every year only on October 2nd. It has to be done day in and day out. 5S activities are to create and take out those three words, Muri, Mura, and Muda. 5S can identify and reduce abnormalities, improve waste, and it is the basis of a good organizational management. You can be what you call Japanese or US or Indian or European or name it, but if you have strong basics, it becomes the cornerstone or the basis for a great organization. Chicho, the president of Toyota Motor Company, had summarized the concept very, very beautifully. He said that the key to a Toyota, people started talking about how Toyota was becoming a great company. And he said the key to the Toyota way and what makes Toyota stand out is not because of any individual element. So what he said was, my company is not about one person. But what is more important is having all the elements together as a system. So he believed that everybody, every system in the company has to work together as one to become a great company. And then he said it is not just enough that everybody becomes one. They have to practice every day in a very consistent manner and not in spits and spurts. So see, it's very, very beautifully put in one sentence. The key to a Toyota way is what makes Toyota stand out. It's not because of any individual element. It is important in having all the elements together as a system, and it must be practiced every day in a very consistent manner and not in spurts. So that summarizes Japanese culture and Japanese management and the 5S concept and DQM concept on the Toyota way very, very eloquently and beautifully. So I will skip all those. And to summarize the Japanese management principles, what I have learned is from the Japanese is in business or anywhere in life, I wouldn't say I am able to practice this consistently 100% across my personal life because I am a human being. But in business, yes, what I have learned is that honesty is the best policy. You have to be honest to yourself, your organization, the product you sell, you manufacture, and your customer. So if you have a bad product or your product has a problem, or if you cannot stick to your agreed things, you have to tell that upfront. And if you have a problem, tell it upfront. Be honest to yourself and to your company. That's what the Japanese say. This next biggest takeaway for me from Japanese principles is Yugen Jiko, which is actually a kind of thing which you must have heard from different people. What this means is, you say, I am giving you my word, I will do this. But what the Japanese say is they add another thing to that. It is okay that you have given your word, but now please stick to your word. So they give you ample freedom to decide when to give your word, how to give your word, and tell them when you will give them the required result. But once you give that word that I will try to do that, you better try and do that. Otherwise, they will be very, very unhappy. And then this is a very beautiful concept that I have learned from Japanese. Learn all the time from everyone. So It can be any person in an organization. It can be a person who cleans the shop floor. It can be a vendor or a messenger who runs from one department to another. It can be a person who brings you tea. You can learn anything from anyone. For example, if I have a problem, I don't go and ask the supervisor. I just go to the shop floor and spend a day with the workman. And they will tell you exactly how this is done and what is the right way to do things. That's which is even more easier to explain to the customer. Last but not the least, the biggest learning for me is to be at Gemba. Gemba means in Japanese, it's a Japanese word. It actually means in English front line. So Japanese say, don't sit relaxed in your chair. So you might be anywhere. If you are a soldier, you have to be out there at the front fighting with your enemy or where the action is. If you are a shop floor manager, you have to be near your machine. If you are a marketing head, you have to be in front of your customer. If you are a product manager, you have to liaise with your product and be where your product is made and where it is used. So frontline. So these are the four things that I have personally learned from them and I try to practice in my professional life. Now that concludes the Japanese management part. So if you summarize, you looked at what are large organizations, how did they come about, what is management as a principle, how did it come about, who was called the organization man, then the manager. Then you looked at the concepts of Japanese management, the pyramid, the four pillars of it. Then we looked at the principle of 5S and its contribution to enabling total quality management and resulting in highly reliable organizations. And then after doing all that, we concluded the Japanese management looking at these four methods. Now it's time very quickly to try and look at some comparisons. So if you ask me, I wouldn't say which is the best system. The best system is the one you practice with all your might and give you 100%. So each system has its own advantage. So each management style, each management specification has its own advantages and disadvantages. But how the Japanese stand out if you compare to the US? I picked it up because for the US guys, Japanese are Yankees because they bombed out their Pearl Harbor. But many of the Japanese US collaborations these days are world renowned. For example, there was a time when Henry Ford, after the Shah of Iran was ousted way back in the 60s, the oil prices shot up, and at that time, Detroit, where all the cars are made in the US, they were only making big cars. So you had the Impala, the Mustangs, and all the stuff. And then Chris Clever, who was the who later headed Chrysler and who was the president of the Ford Motor Company, went up to Henry Ford and said, see, it's time we brought in small cars and it is time we tied up with this company called Honda from Japan because they make the best petrol engines. Henry Ford was so adamant, he said, I will never link up with a Yankee. He did not, and what later happened was history. Honda brought in their cars directly into the US and they took the US market by storm. Then came Toyota, and then the rest is history, which forced Ford at later stages to actually start manufacturing smaller cars. Chrysler went into bankruptcy. It became the first company in the US to get a government funding and be bought out of bankruptcy. They made the Fiat, then they had collaborations with Honda at later stages. So it's a standout company. So if you look at Japanese and US management styles quickly, Japanese, we can call it a more organic style, and while US is more system driven. In Japan, the leader is actually a facilitator. He tries to bring in a consensus by facilitating discussions with different parties. While in the US system, it's more of a decision type. So the latest example, albeit a little funny side, maybe not be the right example, is the kind of thing that's happening for the presidential elections these days in the US. So you have the Republicans and the Democrats vying between themselves. Hello?
Yes, sir. We can hear.
Yeah, okay,
Yes,
fine.
sir.
Sorry,
You
there
are
was
audible. You are audible, sir. You are audible.
all right. Sorry, I heard some disturbance in between. I thought I had cut myself off. Apologies. So, so Japanese are more facilitators. So, if you look at the recent U.S. elections as well, you have the Republicans and the Democrats. One person not accepting the defeat is driving a lot of the decisions of another party. So you have a person who is challenging electoral results at every state and county and turned down, which is actually harming an entire organization below. So it's kind of an example of what happens in a US system. And the leader in Japan is a social leader. He tries to bring in a consensus, as I explained. While in a system-driven US management style, you all are professionals. So they need only professionals. So you have a professional marketing person, you have a professional sales person, you have a legal professional guy. So everybody is professional. Who is a professional is another topic for longer discussions. I had many slides on that, but I am not going to look at this. Japanese believe in group strength. They believe that team is strength, while system type in US can believe that it believes in individual strength and creative. So if you look at history of old US, I mean, successful US companies and Japanese US companies, you will find it exactly true. Just look at Dell, a company which manufactured the first laptops globally and made it so popular. It was made by one person and his creativity, Michael Dell. You think about Microsoft, you have one person singularly working from his garage, Bill Gates. You talk about Facebook, you have Mark Zuckerberg, albeit he's not quite US. So different companies who have been built up from individual creativity and strength. While in Japan, you have examples like Toyota, you have Sony, where it has been a collective leadership. People have gotten together, ideas have been pooled and got out. Japanese, as I told you, emphasizes on human relations, which is a direct example is a person like me who has steadfastly stood in an organization for 23 years, which is actually quite rare. People often laugh at me sometimes and ask me, why did you stick around in a private sector for so many years? Basically, because even though I was challenged, I was happy, I was enjoying my work. So there was an emphasis on human relations, even when I was stressed out and listening. But I had the opportunity to work also with the US management the last 4 years, and where it's more of a functional relation. I am a marketing manager, and I am supposed to deliver functional results from marketing. So year-on-year growth, CAGR of this much, profitability of this much, customer increment value of this much. It's quite quantitative and functional oriented. Then, as I said, in Japanese management, it's management by consensus. You talk, is it okay that we take a decision like this? Can we do this? Can we do that? Is this the right way? Do you think it will work? But in the US system, it is more driven by objectives. So if you have an objective of $75 lakh to achieve this year, and then management takes decisions appropriately. For example, if they find a marketing manager not able to adapt to driving that kind of a result, which is the objective of getting 75 lakhs at 20% profit, they take a gun and shoot me. That's the way a US would do. In Japanese, it's very interesting. A leader will adapt to change. So if an environment is changing, a leader will adapt to the change. And then when the leader adapts, you actually look up to the leader and as individuals, you also try to adapt, and then the whole organization. I still remember when there was a decision taken to build up another factory here in India for our company, and the stone laying was done at a place in Tamil Nadu called Nangineri. 5 days later, the tsunami struck Japan, and everything. I mean, almost entire country was again akin to wiped out. Lots of loss of lives, loss of production labor, and a decision was taken by the leader to stop the incremental production investment here in India. And it was taken by consensus. Actually, we were asked to poll. He said the company has a situation like this. These are the options available. How do you want to do it? And then a decision was taken, and we just followed the leader. So the leader adapted to that change that was required. But in the US, it would be more that a leader is there and he expects the systems to adapt to change. So I still remember when a president went out from a factional company, and a new person came in, who came in from General Electric Healthcare, one of the renowned leaders of Jack Welch. GE is famous for its original president, Jack Welch, and his book, The Fish Fought from the Top. So what they did was she took out the entire system that the other person was doing, including posters which were put up in our offices, which were management guidelines and systems that were put in by the other person. So system had to adapt to a leadership change. So these are core differences between a Japanese and US system. And if you compare American, Japanese, and Indian on various characteristics like planning, Americans are more short-term oriented, Japanese are long-term, as I explained. Indian can be both short and long-term depending upon the kind of management. These days, we have a lot of high-profile MNC-oriented companies with JVs working in India. They might be long-term. There are family-run businesses still which are short-term. Decision-making normally in American is from top to down. Japanese they delegate. They take a decision. They give enough powers to everyone and empower everyone. And in India as well, decisions are taken from top officials. Operations, Americans are swift in decision making, but implementation might be slow. Japanese, on the other hand, they take time to discuss, find the root cause, but once they do and come to a solution, they implement it with very clinical efficiency. Indians, on the other hand, they take time on decisions and sometimes also on implementation, which is a sad fact. Process, Americans are very formal bureaucratic organizations. For example, if I have to put the picture of a person in a poster, I have to get 10 levels of approvals, including the copyright. I have to get it in writing from the photograph, person who took the photograph, that it is okay to use it. Even if it is an image freely available on the Google or Jet images, I have to go take the permission and show it in a piece of paper to them. But Japanese are quite informal in that sense. They do have these systems, but they help you maneuver through these very easily. Indian systems, on the other hand, can be formal or informal. Staffing, Americans are professionals. They have each problem, everything for them. Every person is a professional for them. While the Japanese look at taking people from the scratch and then developing them long term, making them professionals through job rotations and making holistic managers out of them. Indians can be professional with regard to staffing and family-run business. In family-run businesses, there are issues with regard to aspects of favoritism and all the stuff. While there are very good professionally run Indian companies, which are even family-driven at the core. You know, Reliance, which is a family image, yet it is a very thoroughly professional run machine. And then team, American, as I explained to you, is focused on individual expertise and performance, professional. Japanese focuses on group performance. In India, there are organizations which are driven by teamwork, but mostly decisions are top down and individuals drive certain actions. So these are some of the things that I wanted to talk to you about. I'll quickly finish off showing two more slides, two examples. Now, this is not for sharing, but this is a perfect example of how the Japanese summarize their business plan. This is called a lunchbox by the Japanese. So this plan was made by me. I was taught to do this, and so that's how I was able to make. So this is a plan from 2008 till 2015. So as I told you, this is a long-term plan, 7 years. So in one single sheet of paper, I have explained. In 2007, I am at 540 million Indian rupees, and in 2015, I have to get to 2,500. So my path is very clear. So midway, I have to reach 1,300, and for reaching from 540 to 1,300 to 2,500, what I need specifically is a new factory. So that's put there. And from getting 540 to 1300, you need to expand your current capacity. And it all starts with laying down the company policy, midterm vision, and midterm slogan. After that is when the numbers come. And then if you look at, it's not very clear, but if you look at the base, you just follow my mouse cursor here, you can see the strategy, which are the main or the pillar stones upon which this whole thing is built upon, which has collaboration, establishing global standards, improving productivity, product competitiveness, strategy-based promotion, and speciality of associates. So you can see that even though we talked about technology, talked about standards, collaboration, they also included a critical aspect of people in this. So that's the way Japanese work. And then you also put in the vision. So this lunchbox, so if you see, if you Google and look at a Japanese traditional lunchbox, it will have all things very, very organized. That is, as is with all Japanese things they do. So this is a Japanese lunchbox for saying, telling you or explaining to you visually a 7-year plan. It's beautifully put, easy for everyone to understand, and for the person who did it, which is me, it's quite easy for me because I knew exactly what I need to do. So of course there will be different layers of planning which will go below this, but if you show this to any person, even the shop floor person, it is very easy. So they see the vision of the company from 540 million to 2,500 in 7 years time. So every time you have to ask yourself when you are working in an organization, where am I going to be in 7 years time or 5 years time? Am I going to be here? What is my company going to grow? So the Japanese encourage you to think holistically. So you grow when your company grows. So this is an example of a Japanese planning. The same planning is done here for 5 years from 19 to 23. This is an American plan. So here you can see there are no strategies, nothing laid out. It's all numbers, and they are concentrating on the CAGR of 7%. And then you talk about different product categories, how it was in FY19 and how it's going to be in FY23. So these are some examples. So I just wanted to show you the difference between the two of these. And that's it, I guess. I will conclude. Yeah, I still have a few more slides, but I think it's time. We need to leave a little time for questions. So I would thank all of you for a patient listening. I hope it made sense a little bit. This is all I could squeeze in into kind of like 1.5 hours. It's a very vast subject, but I will always encourage you to go back and use the latest technology that is available now these days on the Google, on the YouTube, and any place you can go, or go back to the traditional libraries and read up. Japanese management principles and other management principles make up good reading. So enjoy it and read. And above all, enjoy the culture, because once you enjoy the culture, you start learning. So thank you all for a patient listening, and now open for questions. Thank you. Hello.
Hello, participants. You can raise your questions.
No questions could mean only one thing, and two things. Either this was not interesting, or it was so clear that there are no questions.
It could be the second one, sir.
I sincerely hope so. So if you don't have questions, feel free, and you don't have questions now, feel free to write them down and send it to your coordinator or AMM, and then she can always reach me and I can clarify.
Okay, participants. I think you have heard what sir has told. If you have any questions, okay, questions are coming, sir, in the chat box.
Okay. So there is some background noise. I would appreciate if you can be muted a bit. So the question is, do you think Japan can overcome China and the US one day? I think this question is more related to from an economic point of view, I presume, and establishing themselves as economists. So I think here we are looking at different yardsticks. Alfred, if I got your name correctly. Japanese might not be the most efficient economic powerhouses in terms of growth, because as I said, they have several other constraints like issues related to the environment and all that. What you're talking about is different things. So if you ask me firmly, Japan as a country, it might be difficult to overcome China with the kind of growth that they are going ahead with. US, they are already above them in terms of quality and quantity wise of products. They don't have to prove that to anybody in the US that they are the best. But China, the fact is, they have, with all the constraints and that is talked about of political and social and everything, they have some of the best oil systems that are envisaged there under that socialistic system or whatever you call it. So they have some of the most productive factories there, some of the some good managers. Their systems might be, their processes might be questionable. You must have seen videos surfacing on the internet where employees are beaten black and blue for not achieving targets. I don't believe things happen like that. We have 2 factories in in China, and nobody is beaten because of not achieving the target. You beat, you get it back good and fine. So things don't work that way. So I think US, yes. China, it will be difficult. For Japan, as things stand, their currency has a high inflation. It's difficult for them. What is happening right now is Japan is actually taking out a lot of production from their side and establishing it outside Japan. For example, they had the largest factory for medical equipment and disposables in right below in a village near Fujinomiya, where the Mount Fuji is. And what has happened now is they have shut down parts of that factory for us and taken it down to Vietnam. So they are disinvesting in other countries, which is good actually, which will enable that country to grow. And these good Japanese processes can be established there. So to answer your question, I think Japan might not overcome China in the near future. Why don't you put India also there? So if we put our minds to it, we could actually overcome China and Japan. And I hope I answered your question. So Sri Lakshmi has another question. Japan and Korea are related in culture. So sir, do you think there is an interchange in management culture too? When you talk about Korea, I guess you're talking about the more democratically visible South Korea. Their culture has interfaced during the Second World War, yes, but management styles, I'm not sure that they have imbibed the best management styles from Japan. They have good companies there, good processes, but I would not rank them at having the best management styles as Japan has. I trust that answers your question. There has not been a big interchange in management yet, but with Japan disinvesting from within Japan and taking companies out and putting up factories outside their countries, one of the destinations could be Korea, but there are places like Vietnam which are offering so many soaps for putting up industries. So South Korea, I don't think it has an interchange has happened so far in the full sense. I have a question for a few of you. You can answer that to Lema Madam or your coordinator. Which company would you like to work for? A Japanese or a US, a European or an Indian company? Once you get out of your colleges and have degrees in place. I can also offer you a clue. The fact is that in our company, we don't actually look at from which school you have come here. You might have the biggest certificate from an IIM. What we look for in people who apply to any position in our company is the attitude. Because if we believe that any person who has an attitude, a positive attitude, can become a very, very good associate and a very good manager. So you can answer that at leisure and then tell LMM. So normally I give out a couple of workshops, so I don't know how good that works in your college. So if that you find that interesting, I can always send a couple to LMMS and then she can disperse it to all of you. Questions? Questions?
Anybody else? Okay, I think that's all.
Thank you.
Okay, so then I would like to invite the coordinator, Sri Vince Thomas, for vote of thanks.
Okay, teacher. Okay, teacher. Okay. Okay. A very good evening to all. Respected Principal Dr. V. Kannan, our resource person, Mr. Rajesh Girija Rameshan, then participants from all over India, then HOD, Professor Eliama PJ, and my dear colleagues. We had a wonderful session for about 2 hours. We really enjoyed the class. Okay, I am going to my duty. The duty entrusted to me is to register vote of thanks. First of all, I would like to thank our principal, Government of Kattappana, Dr. Kannan V, who inaugurated the international seminar and delivered keynote address. Thank you, sir. Then we express our sincere and wholehearted gratitude to our resource person, Rajesh sir. Sir explained the concept very well in an understandable manner. Sir, you explained about so many things like long-term planning and visual control system of Japanese companies. Then more interestingly, the use of the word better instead of best. Then Kaizen, then 5S concept you explained very well, sir. Then TQM, then Mura and Mura, then Jamba, everything you explained very well, sir, in an understandable manner. Then, sir, you compare different modern styles of Japan, US, and India in a simple and understandable manner. Sir, without your cooperation, this international webinar would not happen. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and thanks to the entire faculty and management and students. Thank you very much.
Okay. Next, I would like to express my sincere thanks to the participants from all over India. We had participants from more than 15 states. Thank you all, dear participants, for your wonderful cooperation and support. Finally, I extend my sincere thanks to many, like IQSC coordinator Professor Toji Dominic, then our head of the department Professor Eliama PJ, then Professor Krishna Prasad, who helped us to stream through YouTube, and all the professors and teachers in our college, especially PG Department of Commerce. Okay, thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you for your wonderful support and cooperation. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So here comes the end of the session. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Participants. Okay, now we can leave the session.